Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Moving Forward podcast. This is an exciting time because Dr. Valentina and I are back again. Coach KJ and Dr. Valentina, um, we're here to discuss opportunities with regards to finding solutions for individuals who've been overdiagnosed, misdiagnosed, and MISSE diagnosed. Just more opportunities for success and healing. Tonight, Dr. Valentina, are you here?
I am.
Yes, Dr. Valentina, it's so good to have you back.
Yes, yes. It is good to be back.
So it has been a very long time. So I'm going to ask you, tell me what has happened either this week, this month, or whatever since the last time we spoke. Tell me something really good.
Oh man, I would say I became I don't know if I was a practicum site, basically a training site, but I have become that so that I'm able to take on master's and doctorate level clinical clinicians who are studying to become either clinical psychologists or master's therapists in master degree therapists in clinical or counseling psychology. That is like for me super exciting because I've always wanted to do it. I just didn't know if it would be this early in my career. And of course, there's always the fear of like somehow not attracting the right person or attracting a student who's like very raw and needy. Um, but instead, I've attracted such great candidates that make it hard to choose, because I'm like, I'm going to choose one person at a time so that I can dedicate for the entire school year, you know, um, um, like good information to.
Hmm. And what
So,
has been the biggest?
practicum sites, these
What?
practicum sites, just so that you and the listeners know, are, it's an opportunity basically for students to get what they aren't getting in a school setting. So like in a school setting, it's all about books, right? Like reading, assignments, paper, pencil. But on the actual externships, like practicum site, you get to practice like what you've learned. You get to actively have a supervisor that is with you, guiding, your impressions, your interventions, your moves with clients. And so I have a student who is not only a therapy like student, but she's also getting her getting exposed to like diagnostic testing, which is a huge deal given that everybody thinks they have ADHD if they're struggling with inattention and hyperactivity or impulsivity, and like autism if they're struggling with poor eye contact, as I say, a preference to be alone. And so it's nice to be able to like ensure that the training for these testing, like neuropsych testing sessions, are thorough, so that like our clients, people that are on this show, people won't be misdiagnosed, right? Like you wouldn't be giving them the diagnosis that they think they have because of how convincing they might have been given what they read online, but you know what I'm saying, really instilling in this student the 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 understanding of like of the fact that there's so many disorders that share those symptoms, that in the end, you know what I'm saying, you really got to look at all of them in order to know which one it really, like trauma is
Right, right.
a big one. Hmm.
Right. I just was reading some, I think, what is it? The HQ9, the HQ2, the questions that the physicians ask about
I don't
depression.
know, but their asking might be different from what we're asking. I know. Are you talking
No,
about the
no, no, no.
PHQ-9?
This is not psychologist. This is just general practitioner. But what they were saying is they did was a Family Medical Association did a study on the test, and it's only required in the US, not Canada and the UK, and that they're giving adolescents at the primary care physician. It's a HQ, it's two questions. Like, do you feel like you're in
Oh, that's the
danger?
PHQ. If you're talking about, behavioral health in the primary care setting, then
Right.
I mean that's the only thing I can obviously talk
Right. No,
about
no,
because that's
no, no.
my area.
Of
Gotta
course
be
you're right.
PHQ nine.
You're right. The PHQ. They
Okay.
did a study on that and they said there is a projection of a 77%, more than three-fourths, 77% false positive rating. So people will take the
Mm.
test and the projection will be severe or major depressive disorder, whereas it might be something that's more casual, and there's the
Mm.
chance of giving them medication that actually won't benefit them because of the
Well, the
false
fact of the
behavior.
matter is, these children don't need to be medicated just because of a PHQ-9, which, by the way, for the listeners, is a depressive measure that, is a brief measure to kind of just, capture something that may otherwise be lost because people aren't always volunteering verbally, how they're feeling. So it's like a way to capture what the clinician, the medical providers might miss or not have time to talk about unless it's an issue. And so the PHQ-9 is a two-measure depressive like screener. The PHQ-9 is that same one, but with 7 extra questions, so 9 total. And it asks stuff like, do you feel depressed or down? Do you struggle with concentration issues because of your mood? Do you, like move so slowly or so fast that like others would notice? Things like, I mean, this is something I give regularly too.
Yeah.
Do you like do you feel like you'd be better off dead? Do you like almost like lose interest in things that normally would bring you pleasure? Stuff like that, like symptoms of depression. So in the
Right.
end, it's meant for just being a talking point so that but if they aren't doing their job well, then they will prescribe. And that's even if a person really is like depressed, it doesn't mean that a child should be, teenager, I mean, should be, or adult for that matter, prescribed a antidepressant. Like that's pretty aggressive. Like send them to, recommend therapy, give them some strategies, have a behavioral health consultant pop in the office and give them those strategies if you aren't trained in that area, to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I
and
mean, I
Dr.
just think about in Europe, they prescribe, what is it, St. John's wort and holy basil to treat depression. You know what I mean? Like
Right, right.
not Prozac and you know what I mean?
But you know what,
Um,
Dr. Valentina, one of the things too that concerns me, and this comes from like the whole teaching and other types of environments, is that um how can I put this? You know, people don't how can I put this? Every day is not the same, right? So people
yeah.
go through situational challenges that could actually skew their results. And I remember when I was
Ah, yeah.
teaching, let me tell you something, if a girlfriend broke up or if somebody was flirting with the
Yeah.
boyfriend or something like that, that could send them into a to a tailspin.
It's
I mean,
true.
like really, really
It's
major
true.
aggression and frustration. So if you're taking that test when someone has not been able to, resolve the whole thing about the breakup or, et cetera, the results could be skewed. That's what scares me with
That's right.
with adolescents because I'm telling you, those hormones are crazy.
That's exactly it.
They
And
are
this is
crooked
why it's
crazy.
irresponsible to prescribe something because, the person who's not fine today will be fine tomorrow. Like because they got an A on something or because they got into the college they wanted to get to. Like just the opposite too. So, it's like in the end, like to me, if it was bad enough, they would be coming in for that, not you happening to catch it because you just giving them some routine checkup. And again, I'm not trying to minimize the benefits of catching it, but it that the benefits are to get them the help that they need, which is to be in somebody's therapy office, exploring whatever led to this so that they can increase their frustration tolerance so that they can give them skills to manage stress. You see what I'm saying? Not to be drugged up, not basically having an opportunity to actually deal with the reality because they own something and now they connect with, they associate with having peace, even if it's not giving them peace, like,
Right, right, right,
because they
right.
was told it's supposed to help, so now they're taking it and it's like, you're not better, because you're not really dealing with why you're in this situation in the first place. And if it's trauma, you really shouldn't, be prescribing them. You really should be dealing with the stuff, you know, because
Right.
it doesn't go away. This is what medical doctors found out through the ACE questionnaire, the adverse childhood, but we could talk forever. We got to get our guests on.
Right, right. Well, I gotta just tell you my one thing. But I promise you, I'll try to make this story short. So, the biggest thing that happened to me is about a week ago. I went to a funeral, and one of my classmates,
Mm-hmm.
her father passed. Now, this is
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's like a strong pillar, who's always, been that voice, etc. And what happened is I wound up going to her father's funeral, and because I saw it on Facebook and I wanted to show support.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went there, I've been single for a year, haven't really had a desire to date, just really trying to figure out what I want to do. Um,
Mhm.
and but everybody's like, "Oh, you should be dating somebody. You need to date somebody." Blah, 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 blah. And so I'm thinking in the back of my head, maybe I need to try and date someone because, everybody's saying this, etc. Even
Mm.
though I don't feel that desire. And that comes from,
Yeah.
just me being sure of who I am. So,
Yeah.
so I go to the funeral and I
Mhm.
gave my classmate, my sorority sister,
Mhm.
a hug. And no, I walked up, she was
Mhm.
like, Kelly? Kelly? Because I didn't tell her that I was coming. And keep in mind, it was a 6 hour drive to get to the funeral. So she was
Mm.
surprised that I was there and she gave me a hug, which was like a sincere hug. And that
Mm.
was the void that was missing.
Mhm.
When people think, oh, you need,
Mm. Friendship.
intimate relationship, you need somebody to
Mhm.
hold your hand, you need somebody to make dinner, you need a Valentine's Day gift, you need, whatever it may
Mhm.
be. For me, I
Mhm.
was like, oh my God. And then I started to reflect back, like, growing up, my mother was a big hugger. Like my mother
Mm.
hugged me every single day. Like, when
Wow.
I went
That's
to,
beautiful.
after I got married and I would go back to visit, I would always get this amazing hug from my mother. And she would say, I wish
Mm.
you could stay a little bit longer. I wish you could stay a little longer. Even the
Oh,
last time I saw
wow.
her, just before her death, she said to me, she gave me a
Wow.
big hug and she said, I wish you could stay here a little bit longer. I wish you could stay here a little bit longer. And what she
Wow.
and my roommate, I mean not my roommate, my classmate from UNC, she hugged me and she then sent me a text and said, I wish you could come by the house. So it's kind of like
Oh,
that
wow.
whole weight of a lot of things just dissipated and I could, you know, hear,
Yeah.
function, whatever, much clearer. So it's just about
Wow.
self-awareness, understanding what you need. And it lets me know that, if I do get into a relationship or if I do start to date again anytime soon, that hug is very important to me, and you
For
might get
real.
into a
For
relationship with somebody
real.
that says, I don't hug. I used to hug when I was younger. I don't do that anymore. And sometimes when you're not sure of yourself, um,
Mm.
and you're hungry for that, you accept that. And that is kind of like,
Mm.
I'll just throw out this little tidbit, which I sent you beforehand. That is kind of one of the things with domestic violence and abuse is that they will withhold love
Mm.
and support
Mm.
and use it to comfort
Mm.
you. So
You
tonight,
know, but it makes sense, doesn't it? Because think about it, they would have gotten the same thing from their parents. I mean, to have like a like you said, that's what narcissists do, and in the end, for a person to develop a personality disorder that's that rigid means that they got traumatized and terrorized as a child, and so it kind of fostered this. And I'm not saying it's for you all to just all have mercy on people, but it's just more like so that you can understand, like that's not normal, that's not something that's easily developed. Like people who are dealing with these personality issues, no matter how difficult they are, hard to be around. And I mean, I stay away from myself. I don't even do work because you got to know your limits, right?
mhm,
It's like, yeah, they went through some serious stuff to have develop that.
yeah, yeah, and,
Yeah.
and sometimes you don't realize what the serious stuff is because you've been living in it, right? So you normalize it,
Oh
you
yeah.
habituate it. So
Mhm.
if somebody tries to tell you that that's a challenge, they say, "Oh, no, 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 no. Just, that's not a
Mhm.
challenge. That's your problem." Just like when I say, like I said, me saying that a hug is important to me saying
Mhm.
geographic location is important to me. Someone who doesn't
Yeah.
understand my values or have the same values, they might readily dismiss it. But I want to tell you about our hero that is um that is on the phone tonight with us. Her name is Victoria, and Victoria is an amazing person. She's a survivor of three abusive relationships. Just a little bit about her. Victoria is an uplifting and proud mother. Her children are an inspiration and joy. They saved her life.
Mhm.
Victoria grew up in Willard, North Carolina, with her grandparents and two siblings. Home was tough. Growing up, she felt alone and like she did not fit in. Excuse me, she kept silent and put others first because she could not find the words to say or find the words to feel comfortable at home and find her worth at home. There we go. I'm sorry. School was a little different. She maintained friends and they did fun things. Still, she managed to keep them distant most of the time. Even though Willard has a population of less than 5,000 people, and everyone knows everyone. No one seemed to notice Victoria's escalating mental health challenges with middle school until after middle school. Um, it was something more than normal puberty, hormonal changes, and emotional dysregulation. She was diagnosed with anxiety, depression. She also had challenges with substance abuse. Her depression grew to numbness, substance abuse, domestic violence, and suicidal ideations until the day she realized she was needed, loved, and would walk intentionally in her purpose. Victoria's amazing story of self-awareness and triumph will extend hope and healing to many. Victoria, are you with us?
Yes, hi. How are you?
Good, good, Victoria. I'm so happy to have
Hi.
you.
I'm so glad to be here.
Victoria, usually before guests come on the show, I try to find out a little bit about them and their hometown and etc. And when I Googled Willard, there wasn't a lot. I saw the Pender Museum, but not a lot. And I noticed there's around
Mhm.
10,000 people. My grandmother's hometown is Cherryville, North Carolina, and it has about 6,000 people in it. Tell me about Willard.
Willard is where I was born and raised. I was raised with my grandparents. It's a very small town. Wallace is right up the road from me, 4 minutes, by the way. It's not too far from Burgall, and I think 30 minutes away from Wilmington. So it's a very small town. And in this town, everybody knows everybody, especially family is really close by. You can just walk down the road, and there's your grandpa. So it's
Mm.
very small, but everybody knows everybody
Mhm.
around here. So that's the good thing. You go to school with them, and then you see
Mhm.
them in Walmart the next couple years down. So
You know, I have to say, Victoria, so I'm Valentina, Dr. Valentina. It's so funny because I was in Marshall,
yes,
Wisconsin for a couple years, because my fellowship in clinical psych. And what was funny is, I mean, that's a town of like 19K, right? 19,000 people. I
yeah.
mean, a deal with your neighbor. They have a Walmart, they have a Target, they got a couple more, Mexican restaurants, right? Like one on the south end, one on the north end. But
Uh-huh.
the difference
Yeah.
between the south and north end is like 7 minutes. And what I liked about the place is that everybody did know everybody, which on one end could be terrible because if you have a reputation, it's probably hard to come up out of that. But on the other end,
Yes.
just coming from Chicago, right, it made me think about how, I don't know, like accountable you're kept. And so if you steal from somebody, like you're stealing from like literally somebody that you know or somebody that knows that it's like too close. So it makes people
Yes.
better. I mean, they didn't lock up their house door. I mean, but you know what else was interesting about Marshall, Wisconsin, is that they had some issues with they have. I mean, I'll say had because it's been like I don't know 6 years or something since I came back home, 7 years maybe. But I do know that they dealt with a lot of serious drugs, right? Like a lot. I don't know
Oh,
how it was
yes,
coming
ma'am.
up there
Uh-huh.
exactly, but that was a problem, and it was like secret, and it's like no, don't make people feel like they're alone when this is a big issue for a lot of people out here.
Yes. It is a really big problem where I'm at. A lot of people die
Mhm.
from fentanyl or just overdoing it
Mhm.
on pills. So that's something that is really strong in my community as well. And I experienced
Mhm.
firsthand from friends just passing away from it.
Mhm.
So that
Mhm.
is a big access and problem where
Mhm.
I stay at, which is big because
Mhm.
everybody knows everybody and everybody has something and everybody deals with mental
Mhm.
health or everybody deals with addiction around here. So nobody really knows about
Mhm.
that. And hearing other people speak out,
Mhm.
they can be like, "Hey, I'm not alone."
That's it. That was what I was noticing as I was facilitating groups and stuff. I'm like, in the end, like this is so tripped
Yes.
out. Like y'all are keeping this stuff secret, and you only realize your neighbor is going through the same thing. Like, hello, like it's
Yes.
a. I mean, it's community.
Yes.
Like, it's a community and healing. Like, say something, speak out. You are not alone. The
Yes.
shame I think is what
Yes, I
kept them
noticed that.
quiet, and that's why these discussions are important.
Uh,
Mhm.
yes, yes, ma'am. I noticed that a lot since I've just began to become sober of alcohol and
Mhm.
doing drug abuse and stuff like that. I noticed that a lot since I started really having my eyes open to a lot of people around me are really hooked on that. And I didn't really see that because I was so into it myself. I was blinded by the
Mhm.
fact that there's so much other people that I'm now seeing sober wise.
Mhm.
It's like this community, this
Wow.
place, this home that I thought was home, like, everybody is
Yeah.
struggling with something, and some people are too afraid to ask or too afraid to speak up,
Yeah.
or they're so stuck in what they got going on with the addiction, it's so hard for them to see the light.
Well,
Yeah.
what made you different, Victoria? Why did you speak up and see the
Mhm.
light?
I decided that I wanted to become sober, and I decided that I wanted to get out of that dark place whenever I kept constantly, what's the word? Um,
Mhm.
allowing myself to go through the feelings of it, if that makes sense. I don't know how to explain it.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
it's to the
Mhm.
point where you're tired of being so hurt, and you're tired of being so
Mm.
dark, and you're tired of being so
Mm.
dead and numb, and you're tired of seeing the
Mm.
darkness. Like, you
Mm.
just want to feel alive for once, because
Mm.
when it comes to abuse, or it comes to drugs, alcohol, it comes to all these things, you tend to lose yourself, and you tend
Mm.
to
Yes.
lose who you were or who you thought you were. And once you start and say, hey, I don't want to do this, I don't want to become this anymore, this is not who I am, I want to see the
Yes.
light, and you start seeking and pushing to get help, if that makes sense. I've noticed
Mhm.
there were times where
Mhm.
I've dealt with abuse and things where it came so extreme as of to the point of where I kept telling myself, I need help. I need help.
Wow.
But how do
Wow.
I
Wow.
find that help? How do I get that
Right.
help? Because I never really was taught that. So
Mm.
it was hard. It was hard. And a lot of times you want to stay in something so comfortable, the uncomfortable feels crazy. And you don't know how to react to
Yeah.
it because you never was taught to feel that healing thing and that good thing in your life. So you're like, let me go back
Mhm.
to what I feel so comfortable in. And that's what keeps pushing people
Yeah.
down because they're afraid.
Yes. It's like, let me do what I know because at least I know how it's going to turn out. But after a while, you're like, yeah, I don't like how it turned
Yes.
out though. All these times. I mean, and so,
Yeah.
and I know Kelly was saying that your children help like feeling the love from them almost sort of made you realize that you are
Yes.
lovable, you are worth peace, you are worth, you know. How old are your babies?
During the time of feeling, my daughter is 4 years old. I had her when I was
Mhm.
19, and
Mhm.
my son is 2 years old. I had him when I was 22. But during
Wow,
the
that
time
is
of actually being
a
in an abusive
blessing.
relationship and dealing with depression and
Mhm.
stuff, having the
Mhm.
babies, it doesn't make you see that light, you know? Even though you have the
Mhm.
babies, it still does not make you
Mhm.
see that light 'cause you still have the responsibility
Mhm.
of getting up, tending to their care,
Mhm.
bathing them, tending to their every need, and you're
Mhm.
still in that deep depression, or you're still in that abuse state of your mind where you feel dead and alone.
Mhm.
So it is a
Mhm.
lot harder with
Wait. Victoria,
kids,
did you say you feel
especially,
dead?
you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
dead and alone. The feeling of
Mhm.
feeling dead inside is basically you don't feel alive. You feel so numb and you're
Mhm.
just staring out and it's like,
Mhm.
this is not what I want anymore. And I don't want to wake
Mhm.
up tomorrow to do it all again and again
Mhm.
and again and again.
Exactly. It's like a sense of hopelessness. Like it's interesting because that's part of what could have brought you into the situation, right? And then it's what's
Yes,
interesting, and it's a complete. It's like the drugs will then make you feel alive, except after why, right? Because of the rush and the endorphins and all this stuff that gets released. But then what's
yes,
interesting is that it's like false and fake. It's like
yes,
being in a fake old relationship with somebody just that is like
yep,
super temporary, like you pick up a stranger off the streets and you feel so good in that moment, and then
yes,
afterwards you feel dirty, you feel like right? And then, like you say, you keep repeating
Fades
this
away.
cycle. After a while, you're like, yeah,
Yes.
this don't work. This is a bunch of crap. Like, the very thing that you might have felt control over, now you feel out of
Yes. I
control and
hated the
subject
cycle that I
to.
was in.
Yes, yes, yes. It makes sense.
Mhm.
And that can
It
Yes.
also be
really
this
makes sense.
that could also be the same with the abusive relationship. That
Yes.
there's a climax to it. There's a sense of fear,
Hmm.
there's a sense of tension, there's a sense of, there's an
Even
emotional,
love.
huh?
Yeah. Even love.
And you start to feel that, and then when you leave it, it's
Hmm.
anticlimactic. Like, you know,
Hmm.
you're used to
Yes.
you're used to fighting for your self-worth, and then you get somebody who tells you you're
Yes.
beautiful, and you're like, wait a minute, where's the fight? This
Hmm.
is just
Hmm.
But it's
anticlimactic.
also being Yes, also being in a relationship, it's also like, you're fighting every day, but you have those moments of where it is okay some days
Hmm.
and you do love each other some days.
Exactly.
And then
Yes.
you go to fighting and you go to arguing and again, and you're like, what is going on? There's that line in between of like some days we're good and some days we're not. And then some days it gets
Yes.
so bad and it's like, do you love me? But if you were never taught how to
Right.
truly love yourself growing up, you would never truly see your self-worth even in those relationship
Right.
types, which is going to allow you to keep going back and back and back. And then which
Yeah.
causes a cycle because you don't know how to leave or you can't leave because it's gotten to a point of actually it could kill you.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Right.
The threats.
Right.
Were you ever
It,
threatened? Did they ever threaten you?
I had a relationship where, it got its ups downs into it, but whenever it got bad, it got real bad and it got real physical.
mm,
And then it got to the point where I try to leave and it's threatening my life or threatening my
mm,
house or
mm,
trying to shoot up my house or come in here
mm,
and just snatch me up and kill me or just tell me
mm,
bad things that they would do to me, which put fear inside of me.
mm,
And it scared me
mm.
because it's like, you do know where I live at. You do know my routine. You're
Exactly.
with me every day whenever we was together.
Yeah.
You know who I am. So it's like afraid
Yeah.
because I don't know if you're outside my house at like 12, 1 o'clock in the morning just watching me outside of
That's
my
right.
window. So it's
That's right.
terrifying of having those thoughts inside of your head. Like, is he watching me? Is he there? He's harassing me? He's phone
Mm,
calls, restricted numbers. It's that
mm,
fear
yes.
inside whenever
Yes.
you do leave. It's like, if I know
Hmm.
I go back, it will all stop, and I've dealt with that
Yes.
constantly,
Wow.
and it's scary a lot, especially whenever you have babies in the mix of it, because
Mm,
it's like, I'm
mm,
trying to be the best mom, but I'm not right now, and
hmm.
I'm scared, and I don't know what to do because I've never done this before, so I'm living in fear.
Yes. Wow. And like you said too, there's only like I know there's like some early childhood stuff that kind of impacted, even like kind of created this
Yes.
vulnerability, right? Because you didn't learn the stuff. And so you're like, okay, maybe
Mhm.
the in
Yes.
between is I do go back so that I can have peace, right? Because that's the like finagling of the relationship to make sure your children are safe. But then after a while,
Yeah.
you're like, yeah, like that's not safe either.
Yeah.
Like they can't see this and then not have this
Yes,
whole
yeah,
cycle repeated
because
in
either
their
way,
life.
I'm gonna get abused.
Yep, yep, it's
Yes,
true,
yes,
and that's
and at
scary.
some point, during the process of me going through all that, of the scariness and stuff, the only safe
Mhm.
thing I truly had was therapy because they couldn't get to me there,
Wow,
and, like,
wow,
it can't do nothing to me through therapy because, therapy is therapy. They're not gonna think nothing
right,
of it. So, whenever they
right.
were basically I was going through it, I was in therapy a lot, and while I was in therapy,
Mhm,
I was basically explaining, "Hey, this is the point of my
mhm,
life where it's gotten so bad to this point. I need help. Or what can I do?
mhm,
Because even though I'm going through all this, I'm experiencing trauma. I'm experiencing
mhm,
PTSD. I'm experiencing
mm,
anxiety. I can't seem to
mm,
calm myself down when I get in those manic episodes, which they then
mm,
give me medication to help
mm.
and so it was a lot harder because while I'm on those medications, like you were stating in the beginning of this podcast, I was listening.
Yes,
And
yes,
once they give you these medications these medications basically just numb you down. They don't really help
Yep.
you, and they don't really
Mhm.
get to the core problem of really healing your inner self, to actually helping you with things to cope and get through these things and seeing yourself again. And while I was
Yeah.
on these medications, it calmed me down. It made me a good person, because even though I was going through everything that I was going through, I wasn't having the manic episodes anymore.
So people
Wow.
were happy with you on the drugs. Like people were encouraging you to be on the drugs.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, like,
Wow.
"You need to take your medicine today. You're having one of these episodes, and, like, you're freaking out. You can't act like this whenever you're kids. Like, you need to get yourself under control. Take your medicine. You need to get back into
Wow.
therapy." So everybody
Mm.
was like, they always seen the crazy side of it, but they never really got to a
Mm.
point of, "What is wrong with her? Is she
That's
okay?
it.
Like, why
Yeah.
why? Like,
Yeah.
sit down, talk to me, hug me,
Yeah.
let me know you're there
Yeah.
for me. Let me feel it, because I feel so alone right now. I want to die."
Yeah. Wow. Exactly. Wow. And that's wow. I mean, it's so interesting. I feel like this. Honestly, the nation is like just have low frustration tolerance. Like don't want to deal with nothing.
Yeah.
Like just want to shut everything
Yeah,
up
they
with
see a crazy
whether it's a
thing and they
screen,
wanna
right, a video
automatically hush
game.
it.
Yeah, and that's the problem.
Yes.
Like it's really scary because instead of like it's like they lost social skills, right? Because instead of like you said, noticing, checking
Yeah,
in, it's almost like you know what I mean. It's almost like it just shuts you up. Like, hey, you got this problem. Are you taking your meds? And it's like, okay, wow, you have no
yeah,
trust, you have no understanding in how these things work. Like even with schizophrenia, they're finding out that it's an
yeah,
immunodeficient type of traumatic, disorder that
Mm.
which makes sense. Like when people go through trauma, it really messes. I mean, they become vulnerable to all type of stuff, all type of conditions and problems,
yes.
and so
Being in
it's just
domestic
interesting.
violence,
Mhm.
yes. Being in
Yeah. Oh
domestic
yeah. Oh.
violence really showed me a
Mhm.
lot, since
Mhm.
I'm not in that type anymore. Like, just looking back,
Mhm.
being in domestic
Mm.
violence has caused a lot of trauma to me. Even to
Yeah.
this day, it's hard, because you never know what somebody's
Mhm.
true intention is. And so while you're
Yep.
being in that vulnerable state, and you're being in that state where your guard is always up. I had
Mhm.
PTSD from my past traumas. I'm scared of actually committing, you know what I mean? Or I'm scared to
Yeah.
even talk to friends. I isolated myself so much from being in that abusive state, because it tears you down. It messes with your mind. It messes with your thoughts. You have rewinds of everything that happened. Like, you can't seem to get away from it no matter what,
Right.
which is why therapy is the main thing, because those
Yeah.
therapists, they help you try to cope with
Mhm.
everything without going to drugs and alcohol, because even
Mhm.
though they numb it at the moment, they come right back with deeper depression and anxiety, and you lose your mind more. So therapy
Yeah.
is the main thing that can actually
Help
get
you.
you back right to the point of helping you to the point of, "I'm done. I'm leaving. This is not me."
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you ask
Exactly.
for resources, because therapy has resources. They have even if you don't have no family, you don't have no family friend, you don't have nobody, you're literally alone and you're by yourself with your kids.
Yeah.
Therapy. Even because I had therapy up to the point where I didn't have no ride, but they did it virtual.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I
So
loved about
just
COVID. Like
seeking
it
and
did help.
asking the therapy.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
So
Like Coach KJ.
yes, I was just gonna say, I'm so glad that you found something that worked with regards to therapy and that you were able
Mhm.
to continue with it, right? It's making you stronger. I
Mhm.
hear your strength, you're
Yes.
moving forward, etc. I With all that being said, if you
Mhm.
could give listeners, because we've got parents and we've got listeners, at people who may be going through it this time, listening to the show, if you could give them one or two things in particular that therapy did that you would say, hey, look, you know what? If you are going through, I would recommend therapy for these two reasons. Um,
Mm,
what would they be?
I would use therapy for my mind, because being in
mhm,
an abusive relationship and also being on drugs, you battle with your mind a lot, and when your mind gets bad,
mm,
depression gets bad, then suicide comes in, and then you don't wanna
mm,
live anymore. I would say my mind because
mhm,
they do give you tips, they give you coping skills,
mhm,
they're there for you, and they even give you a phone number to call even whenever you are in a manic state just to help you calm down
mm,
and to show you that you're not alone.
mhm,
I would say my mind,
mhm.
and, I would say do you mind repeating that again for me real quick, please?
I was just looking
Mhm.
for maybe
Just,
two things that you could share with listeners as to why therapy was so great. So, one thing is good. What you don't have to give a second thing,
Yeah, I mean, that
but I
was perfect. That
that
was
was
yes,
honestly
yes,
perfect.
that was perfect. It was authentic, and I
yes.
thank you for
Mhm,
being so authentic and transparent because right now, when there's so many different things out there that people are trying to share or do or convince or whatever it may be, an audience, people can get confused and people can get overwhelmed. So hearing something, like I said, as true, authentic, and transparent as your conversation tonight will help many.
mhm,
It will guide many parents
mhm,
and
Yes.
individuals going through. Dr. Valentina, before we close out tonight, thank you
mhm,
so much, Victoria, for all that you shared with us.
mhm.
Dr.
Yes, ma'am.
Valentina,
For
before we
real.
close out tonight, can you give closing words? Can you tell us what your
Yes.
thoughts are or something take home for listeners?
Well, the first thing is I just want to thank you, Victoria, because what you gave in such a short time was like golden.
Hmm.
The second thing I
Yes.
definitely want to say is that even though, you know, I am like not in favor at all of psychotropic drugs, especially, like given the fact that it doesn't teach skills and it also is like aggressive, when you have like in Europe, them treating, as I mentioned at the opening part of this meeting, for example, depression with St. John's wort or with holy basil instead of Prozac, for example. I do know that they put you because they don't necessarily do that. If you don't have that in your mind, right, to advocate and for and request, then and you are like in crisis and you have already gotten there, because in crisis to me isn't enough. It's more like you have to be in therapy, still in crisis, haven't done it multiple times a week, and it's still, then it's like, okay, but I just hate that that's the option that we have more, like readily available, and that people have to
And that
request
you can
these
get a
other
prescription for,
natural paths.
right? That you can
Right.
get a
Like
prescription and get it at a
Yes.
reduced rate.
it just right. And these things should be like these more naturopathic options should be prescription. I mean, I think they are. I feel like at least the St. John wort, I heard of a medical doctor using that. So it's available. It's just one that they aren't going to bring up initially. And I don't know why. I mean, they have a problem in this country with drugs, and yet they run it at real quick. It's just contradictory. And that should be a red flag for people, So those are like my sort of
Yes.
closing words. We thank you so much again, Victoria, like for your time, for your candor.
Yes.
I mean, your honesty is just is golden. Thank you so much. You continue to take care of yourself and those babies.
All right. Good night,
Yes,
everyone.
ma'am. Thank you so much
Good
for having me on
night.
here. Good night.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Victoria.